Hello, everyone. This is another Black Conservative. I am Ryan Bolin. Thank you all for joining me. So according to this article I'm about to read, there is supposed to be this big red wave. I know you've all heard that term. This big red wave that's supposed to take place in November. According to many Republicans, a lot of states and a lot of people are becoming more conservative. They're going to start voting for the Republicans. We've all heard this being said. This big red wave. It's a euphemism, of course, for those on the right, conservatives, that the Republicans are going to crush the Democrats in November. Hence the term red wave. But the big tech companies that are liberal, Google, Facebook, and others, have a plan. According to this article, conservative article I'm about to read, outlines this plan. And that plan is to censor the voices of conservative news sources. Now, let's get into this article. Let's get into this. And then I'm going to give you my full commentary after I've completed this, because I want to read a significant amount of this, because this is very interesting. This is very interesting, because if this is true, then this is the level that the left is going to censor conservative voices. So let's get into it. Republicans think a red wave is inevitable in November, but the Democrats still have one big advantage: the ever-tightening grip of big tech censorship, which will be used to prevent undecided voters from encountering even the most mainstream conservative news in the run-up to the next election. Republicans will have a strong message, but what if voters are prevented from hearing it? And this is my word on that. Out of sight, out of mind, right? You never hear about it, you don't know. But let's read on. Let's see if this is accurate. In the run-up to the 2020 U.S. presidential election, Google completely suppressed Breitbart News from its search results. Now, look, I don't know how accurate this. I'm reading from Breitbart News. So I don't know how accurate it is. Look, I wasn't even really even into Breitbart News at the time. I wasn't reading much of any conservative news sites at the time. I had just started. So at least in 2016, I just started. So these are their words. Breitbart News went into 2020 election with a 99.7% reduction in visibility for its links on Google search. The censorship was so severe, no-name blogs with plagiarized headlines and content would appear in search results before the original Breitbart News articles. On search for the term Joe Biden, Google cut visibility on Breitbart's news links to zero. Now, this is what this article is saying. This is the Breitbart News article saying this. Now, is this totally, I don't know. I don't know if this is totally accurate, but I highly doubt that this article is lying. I would assume that people who write for Breitbart News and the owners of Breitbart News know when they're being censored and when they're not being censored. Okay, so it goes on to say, then a few weeks before the election, big tech teamed up to suppress one of the biggest stories of the cycle, the Hunter Biden laptop story. A post-election poll found that 17% of Biden voters would have considered the decision would have reconsidered their decision had they been aware of the laptop story alone. Maybe, maybe not. That's my words, Not counting the hundreds of Breitbart News stories voters didn't have access to due to Google censorship. That's not good. Biden's margin of victory in 3 swing states was less than a percentage point, making tech censorship a pivotal factor in the outcome. There is no law preventing Silicon Valley from not only repeating this plan in 2022, but scaling it up to a massive level. And that's exactly what they're doing. The groundwork is already being prepared in a number of ways. And let me read some of these. Number 1, independent watchdogs downgrading conservative media. NewsGuard discredits the right. No matter how mainstream you aren't safe. NewsGuard, the establishment, quote, misinformation watchdog, which is crazy to me, Who are they to say this is misinformation? And it's amazing. It's amazing to me, man. But let's go on. Watchdog that received funding from the Pentagon and whose software is being rolled out by millions of school teachers across the country, recently downgraded Fox News in its ranking of trustworthy and untrustworthy news sources. I find that interesting because according to some news sources, Fox News is beating out the left news sources like CNN and MSNBC. Whatever, I'll go on. NewsGuard users will now see a red warning label next to Fox News links all around the internet. Are you serious? Signaling to users that the source is considered untrustworthy by the organization, which was set up by former establishment media figures Stephen Brill and L. Gordon Krautsvitz in 2018 in the early years of the media-concocted, quote, misinformation panic. Fox News and Breitbart News have now both received a negative red rating from NewsGuard. This means that going into the 2022 midterm elections, NewsGuard is warning its users not to read the two leading conservative-leaning sources of online news. Let me say something about this. So you're reading and everything, you're trying to get information, and then NewsGuard warns you not to read. Assuming that this is accurate, assuming that this article is accurate, which in my opinion, I think it is. I don't think they're lying. You trying to find out information as an individual, independent, and NewsGuard warns you not to read these two leading conservative-leaning sources of online news. You really think that you're going to do that? Well, I don't want to read this because NewsGuard is telling me not to read it. I don't believe people is that dumb. What you going to do? Get poisoned? Oh my God! If I read this, I'm gonna go into a brain fart. I'm gonna go crazy. Oh Lord! Read for yourself to see. Read for yourself to see. How would you know if you don't read it yourself? I'm sorry for being sarcastic, but this to me is just dumb. It's just dumb. You know, I don't believe people is really that messed up in their head. I don't really believe that. I don't believe people is that crazy in their head to say, oh, NewsGuard is warning me not to read any Breitbart News conservative sources, so I'm not going to read them. You don't even know what they're saying. How would you be able to judge what Breitbart News or any of these independent conservative news online news sources are saying if you don't read it for yourself? Anyway, the article goes on to say, naturally, the sources that pushed the Russian Gate hoax and said the Hunter Biden laptop was, quote, Russian disinformation, end quote, a claim repeated by NewsGuard's co-founder, received no such warning label. Number 2, Facebook suppressing the news. If the wrong side is winning, call off the game. Silicon Valley has also found a way to censor all conservative media at the same time. For years, the left has been wailing and screaming about the success of conservative media on Facebook. Despite algorithm changes that suppress traffic to conservative websites by a whopping 20% in the case of Breitbart News, conservative media has continued to crush the competition. Now, before I read any further, if this is accurate, which I believe it is because I've heard this from other sources that said that these conservative sources are defeating leftist sources in people watching them. Gee, I wonder why. Could it be that most people in America are actually conservative in their lifestyle, although they may vote Democrat and they may hear this liberal stuff being spit at them? Their lifestyle is conservative because a lot of the conservative worldviews are not extreme worldviews. To believe in a monogamous family and to believe in working hard, is that extreme? You know, to believe in a heterosexual relationship is that extreme? To believe that all human life is worthy of being, given birth to. In other words, to say that I don't believe in abortion, I believe that all human life should be given an opportunity to live. Is that extreme? Article goes on to say Facebook has an answer. If conservative media is winning the news war on its platform, it will simply suppress all news at the same time. This month, the Wall Street Journal reported that the platform is shifting resources away from its news tab and news distribution and towards a quote, creator economy, what the heck that is. This means that news will be featured less frequently to users. That's what it means, whether they ask for it or not. This is a way of preventing unwanted narratives from reaching the public at the very moment when news coverage of the failure of democratic rule in D.C. will be ramping up. But let me say this. I don't think people are going to too much fall for that. As I said, I don't think people are that dumb. I don't think they're going to fall for it. They're going to see right through it and say, wait a minute, you trying to suppress the other side. I want to hear what they got to say. I want to hear what they have to say. That's what people are going to start saying. See, the statistics tell the truth. Okay, let's go on. This is a repeat of what Facebook did after the 2016 election when it reduced the visibility of political posts, a change that resulted in engagement on Donald Trump's page dropping by almost half. Out of sight, out of mind, right? Number 3, taxpayer-funded censorship. NPR creates misinformation bureau. Meanwhile, in the media, the steady drumbeat of the misinformation panic continues. Taxpayer-funded NPR is running a whole series about the media-concocted crisis with a near-exclusive focus on stories that spread in conservative circles. Misinformation and disinformation, like fake news, wasn't a buzzword before Trump won. But now it is everywhere. It is pushed by think tanks. It is pushed by government-funded agencies. It is debated by congressional committees. It suddenly becomes a new responsibility of the federal government. This is how elites manufacture crisis. Every institution they control saturates the information environment to create a sense of panic. You can determine the purpose of such a panic from its targets. Ask almost any prominent conservative or even journalist not in alignment with the far left if they received a warning on social media for spreading misinformation, and they will likely say yes. The victims include journalists like Alex Berenson, senators like Rand Paul, and of course the former president. Leftist misinformation, whether it concerns, quote, Russiagate, biological gender differences, or police and crime statistics, is naturally never called out. And number 4, I'm just going to read up to 4. Number 4, regulatory gridlock, no recourse for citizens. The goal of the misinformation panic has always been to delegitimize conservative viewpoints and give big tech a pretext to censor them. So long as the Supreme Court continues to block efforts to address corporate censorship, this trend will only worsen. As things stand, tiny local radio and TV stations are subject to more stringent political neutrality requirements than Google, Facebook, or Twitter. Previous regulators, perhaps overzealously, sought to prevent even the smallest communication platforms from unduly influencing election. But today's Supreme Court seems fine with the most powerful platforms that have ever existed doing so. Carefully considered news text laws aimed at giving users some measure of due process against the tech giants, most notably the one passed in Texas, have yet to make it past the Supreme Court. So we'll stop right there, and then you can read the rest of that on your own free time. And I'll leave a link to it in the description box below. But I just want to say right up front, their article. This is Breitbart News. I don't claim it as gospel. And if anyone is accusing me of claiming it as gospel, no, I don't claim it as gospel. Okay? Any article, whether from the right or left, I don't claim as gospel. It could be right, it could be wrong. In my opinion, I believe a significant amount of what this person is saying here in this article is accurate, because I personally experienced censorship on my YouTube videos. I've had several of my YouTube videos taken down for misinformation. I've been blocked several times on Facebook for misinformation. Really? I'm not stupid. I know what I'm saying. And if people don't like it, they don't have to like it. If people don't agree with it, they don't have to agree with it. Just like I don't have to agree with their viewpoints. This is America. Freedom of speech. What is the problem? And I'm going to repeat what someone said before. I can't remember this person's name. The radical left wants to suppress opposing voices, not because they disagree with the ideology. Well, we just believe it's misinformation. No, it's not about that. It's not about misinformation and all that. What it is, in my opinion, is that people who oppose the radical left in their viewpoints are a danger to what the radical left wants, which is the destruction of America. That's what they want. Has nothing to do with, in my opinion, based on my own research and studies, has nothing to do with misinformation. What the heck is misinformation? Does anyone even know what misinformation is or disinformation really is? How are you able to determine misinformation and disinformation if you're not able to hear consenting voices? If you only hear one kind of voice, whether it's from the right or the left, how in the world will you be able to determine misinformation and disinformation when all information is being blocked from you? Think about that before you start suppressing conservative voices. That makes no sense. Let the people hear it and let them determine it for themselves. But the reason why the radical left is doing this is because the conservative voices and any dissenting voice that disagrees with their agenda, they have to crush and stamp out because they want to change America into the worst. Since the 1960s, when the so-called new left took over, things changed for the worse in this country. Tell me I'm wrong. I'm talking about morally. I'm not talking about technology. So if anyone put down, well, our technology is better. Technology is not a way to determine the moral status of this country. I'm talking about the moral status of America. It stinks. And that was the whole plan. And that's the plan for now, is to destroy the moral fabric of this country. Because when you no longer believe in right or wrong, you're willing to do anything. And that's what people are doing. They're lying, stealing, killing, cheating, and doing whatever they need to do to meet their objectives. They don't care. Why? Because the radical left is changing their perceptions by shutting off the voices of all dissenting people whose voices dissent and disagree with their agenda. I'm going to keep saying that until I'm blue in the face, and that's going to be hard because I'm a dark-skinned person. So it's going to take a lot. But this is what I believe going on. So to end this video on this is what the left have. This is what the radical left have. Suppress. This is what big tech companies have that support the radical left. Suppress all conservative voices. You can't come up with anything better. You can't come up with someone that can actually compete with the right, compete with Republicans, compete with conservative politicians. You can't come up with that. You got to suppress all dissenting voices. I think they're going to lose. They are losing, and I think they're going to lose in the midterm. It may be some bloodshed initiated by the radical left, of course, but I think they're going to lose because I don't believe that many Americans in this country is that dim-witted. I don't believe that. Because if that's true, then why are they, like I said earlier, why are they winning? Why is more people adhering to the conservative sites like Fox News and so forth? Why are they adhering to it? Why is Fox News' numbers higher than MSNBC's and CNN? Why are their numbers so low if it's supposed to be so many people in this country that are representing the radical left? What did they do? Even if they were, they stopped watching. Why did they stop watching it? Because they want to hear somebody else's opinion. Clearly. Anyway, what do you guys think about this? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel. God bless you all, and see you again.